Over the period of Term 4, I was asked to analyse my own table tennis performance, to which I could then modify an existing training program. These modifications aim to enhance my skill set and optimise my performance. To achieve this, principles of training, components of fitness, stages of skill learning, biomechanics, sports psychology, sociology of sport, and training program design were all factors which were required to give myself the best possible outcome. The results from the various sources of evidence would suggest that the training program was effective and would be the driving force for the term's success. This will all be discussed in the following presentation. To design and execute a training plan which would optimize my overall table tennis performance, an in-depth analysis of my own gameplay and performance was needed. This meant going beyond my internal feedback and analyzing some footage of myself, as well as to take into account the constructive external feedback of my peers and teacher. Also, it was identified that to ensure the design would be adequate for my improvement, research was conducted on various types of drills and training sessions. Given my ability to produce mostly successful hits, as well as previous encounters with the table tennis in Year 11, I considered myself to be at the end of the cognitive stage of learning and moving forth into the associative stage of learning. During this stage, the basics were out of the way and I was on my way to practicing and refining my performance. Yet, after analysing footage from the beginning of the term, many areas were identified as weaknesses. This was indicated in a player analysis activity that was utilised to give insight on various different aspects of my performance. Backhand, backspin, my left side and consistency are all areas that require a bit more work than others. After further analysis, it was identified that my weaknesses stemmed from a range of different biomechanical and sociological reasons. These were interpreted by the use of footage and personal reflection. Force, point angle of contact, spin, base of support, and arm angle were all some of the biomechanical factors which were seen to be responsible for major flaws in my gameplay, in addition with sociological factors such as pressure, arousal, and motivation. During reflection, after losing a few points in a row, I become overwhelmed, frustrated, and anxious. The pressure builds, I lose focus, and the outcome is simple. I become inconsistent and full of my flow. This is a real weakness because it isolates the fact that I struggle with pressure, so tournament play and king of the court would be examples where I let the sociological principles take effect, resulting in a poor performance. Training sessions which focus around pressure and anxiety and how to deal with them would be necessary to aid my performance. Similarly, I wrote down upon analysis specific biomechanical errors which would result in a poor performance, or my weaknesses. These were identified to be my force on the ball, my base of support being inappropriate, the angle of contact, spin, and my arm angle. Force and point of angle at contact are crucial. Too much force and the hit is inconsistent and inaccurate. Too little force and the hit won't make it over the net or will be an easy opportunity for an attacking opponent. Just like Goldilocks, the hit has to be just right. Also, if the racket angle at the point of contact is incorrect for that specific hit, then the ball will not go where it is meant to, and a point would most likely be lost. Finally, without a proper stance or base of support, my ability to link shots and move around the table limits myself to a few simple hits. All these biomechanical areas need to be improved through necessary training sessions if my performance is to be improved. The training program development stage took into account a magnitude of factors in order to devise a plan which was best suited for my personal improvement. Using knowledge attained from the player analysis as well as the previous terms of physical education, existing table tennis training sessions and programs were modified to personalize them for my own development. Since there was a range of different sociological factors which limited my success in table tennis, it was only fitting to have a number of training sessions devoted to the improvement of my pressure. This type of training overlaps with the term specificity in sport, where certain drills in a session aim to aid a certain aspect of one's skill set. In a study published by Elsevier's Sociology of Sport and Exercise, it was concluded that performing minor tasks under mild levels of anxiety can also prevent choking when performing with higher levels of anxiety. This information was used to modify training sessions to add an element of anxiety to it. King of the court and tournament play were elements of my training sessions that had the aspect of anxiety. You lose, you fall down the ladder. You win, and you move up. Some other training sessions involve circuits where failure would result in a direct repeat. This session would prolong until no errors were made. These sessions would mentally prepare me for tournament play, and I would be more prone to choking, and were performed frequently of up to 2 times a week, and were performed at a high intensity. Furthermore, training sessions were modified to focus on correcting the biomechanical features of my gameplay. The most noticeable of those were arm angle, the angle at the point of contact, spin, and base of support. A good base of support allows nimble movement around the table where various combinations are easier to link together. Additionally, a good arm angle allows the hit to be more accurate and consistent. According to All About Table Tennis, the best way to get the hang of a good base of support and good arm angle is to mass produce basics drills over and over. These training sessions acquired principles of FITT. They were very frequent early on in the term, and the intensity was not very high at all. These sessions would go on for an entire period, and it just required basic drills. 5 minutes of backhand to backhand, 5 minutes of forehand to forehand, 5 minutes of both backhand and forehand gameplay, 5 minutes of backhand to forehand, and finally 5 minutes of forehand to backhand. This type of training aims to mass produce the same skill over and over, which critics argue is the only way to become more consistent. As identified, a training session was devised to specifically enhance my own personal performance by working through my weaknesses. Over the course of the term's work, evidence for improvement was collected. For example, the first lesson of the term, footage of my gameplay was recorded. Grip, racket and arm angle, as well as body position and footwork were all areas identified to limit my ability to play quality table tennis, with only about 50% of my initial hits making it. Yet, after the term's training sessions, clear improvements can be identified. In footage recorded towards the back end of the term, my grip, body position, footwork, and racket angle has improved, as can be seen on screen. This definitely improved my performance, as over 90% of my hits were successful, and some had potential to be a kill shot in the game. Similarly, some evidence of improvement has come in the form of measurable progress. Toward the beginning of the term, I consistently found myself at the back end of the courts during King of the Court. However, now I am finding myself at the top end of the courts. Also, during a tournament one, I went well, winning the majority of my games. Interestingly, the opponents I lost to in the first tournament, I began to close the gap on in the second tournament, losing to Jeremy Davis by 2 points instead of 6, also losing to Tom Lawrence by 2 points instead of 5. This measurable progress provides validated evidence of my improved performance over the term. Keep in mind that my opponents are training and improving alongside me, which accounts for a lot more improvement. At the end of each training program, I wrote a reflection. This provides primary evidence on how effective or non-effective the training session was. From my personal view, for most sessions, there were positive results where I felt like I had learnt a measurable amount about table tennis and what I can do to improve. In some cases, I recorded my results. For example, during a training session with Nick Houlihan, I noted that I lost 7 points to his 11. This, compared with my first result, shows a significant improvement. Writing, I successfully returned a number of his backspin hits, forcing him into an attacking rally where I had a better chance to win over a point. Furthermore, I wrote in the play analysis that after I lose a few points in a row, I become frustrated and anxious. Mostly this would result in me choking and throwing the game away. However, during the frequent training sessions, which had that element of specificity where I focused on drills that would improve my ability to play under high levels of anxiety, I had really positive feedback. Writing, today I was able to complete the circuit in my first attempt. I then went forward and repeated the circuit where I again completed at a high level of intensity and speed on the first attempt. From here I decided I was on fire and versed JJ in a rematch for tournament results. After 6 sets, I won 5 out of the 6, never choking once. Whenever I was down a few points, I would keep my cool, play relaxed, and end up on top. This is a clear indication that the training session was efficient. Once I had done training sessions, which involved mass practice, I moved on to more advanced training sessions, which were more periodic and blocked. During these training sessions, I received constant internal and external feedback. Whenever there were breaks in the training, either myself, peers, or my practical teacher would remind me of where I'm constantly making errors and how I can try to fix them. These training sessions were not very frequent, as I felt it was more important for someone at my skill level to carry on performing the basics until I was 100% confident. However, the feedback I received would constantly allow me to try and turn simple drills into aspects of specificity where I could really target one aspect of my gameplay. Over the course of the term, I created an effective training program which focused on improving my specific weaknesses. This was achieved through analysis of my gameplay and the modifying of existing training programs to suit my skill level. Evidence of gameplay over the term suggests the training program was effective in improving my performance in the game of table tennis.